Welcome to the first episode of Peel and Reveal, the podcast where we explore stories of joy, purpose, and self-discovery. I'm your host, Annelie, and I created this podcast to share my exploration of health and humanity with a wider audience. Each week, I interview healers, teachers, and changemakers to learn about their journey and what shaped their paths. My hope is that these stories will inspire and educate you, because they certainly do for me. Today's episode is a bit different. A few months ago, I met Ludvig, someone who shares my vision of transforming Swedish healthcare from reactive to proactive. It's no small task, and no single person or approach can make it happen. We have both chosen media as our starting point. I have this podcast, and Ludvig has a YouTube channel. In this special episode, we interview each other. Ludvig shares his incredible journey from being hospitalized in a psychiatric facility and on heavy medications 10 years ago to living medication-free today. And I open up about how I came close to burnout while caring for my sick mother while running a fast-growing company, and my path to recovery. I'm so excited to share this first episode with you, so let's dive in.
How did you get into business, and what type of business is it that you have been doing?
Oh, well, this goes back. So I actually started my first company when I was, I think, 17. In Sweden, we have something where high school students, where they get to, or we get to like practice having our own companies. Now Ludvig is upside down. That is not disturbing at all.
Sorry, I thought it was a better angle. Sorry, let's go. High school.
Yeah, so I started my first company there, and I kind of like, I didn't know that much about running companies or whatever, but I kind of really figured out already then that this was what I was going to do. Then you kind of have to finish that company in high school, and you can choose to make it a real company. We choose to not do that, but I started another company when I moved to Stockholm like 6 months later, and that was like a dance company. So I hired all my friends who were dance teachers to teach in my company, and then I like fixed students and classes and so forth. So around that time, I kind of had figured out that I wanted to be like, I wanted to have my own business, but I also knew that I wanted to have some like real life experience. So I folded that company. I went abroad for a few years. I come back. I worked like one real job at Telia, which is like this huge telecom company in Sweden, but that their fighting brand Halebop. And then I was like, okay, now I've done that. I have 3 years work experience, so now I know how to work at a real job, and now it's time to be an entrepreneur. No, that really didn't happen. I ended up taking another job at a very entrepreneurial company. So I ended up at 25 being an interim CEO for internet security, web security startup. That didn't last very long either. So I ended up leaving that. And then I started my own company. So I became an entrepreneur 11 years ago when it comes to like, I've not had a paying job for 11 years. I've only been running my own companies, different companies, and multiple at the same time, and all of that. And a lot of them haven't been successful. Like a lot of them failed. I started a e-commerce where you could like send in your children's used clothes, and we would sell them for you. That was not very like profitable, so not a very good idea. I started, or I didn't start that, but I was part of a company that did a solution for trying to measure the value of marketing. We didn't have really the power like that you need to build something like that. And then there came a lot of other tools that were kind of similar and are like, maybe you could do that we were trying to do then, now, very cheap, but at that time it was like super expensive. So we didn't really have the right circumstances, so I left that too. So like I did a lot of things that wasn't very successful. And then I like, took a look at myself and I was like, but what am I good at? And during all of these like failed startups, I had been a consultant. That was how I like earned my own money. So it's like, I'm good at being a consultant. So I was
in what area?
in marketing. Well,
Mm.
marketing and like websites, like building websites, building e-commerce sites, setting that up. Uh, Basically the digital arena. But marketing has more and more become my specialization. Uh,
Mm.
so I was like, well, I'm good at that. I'm earning money at that. People are happy when I do that. And I just ended up kind of like, it wasn't really even the plan from the beginning, but I ended up starting hiring people to work with me, and it kind of turned into an agency. And yeah, I didn't really mean to. It just happened. I just picked what I was good at and I did that. And it started, leading to stuff. So yeah, that's a bit.
And and why do you think you had to go through trying out stuff to realize that, hold on a second, what am I good at? What was that? Because did you see that from start, but you thought that it was boring to do, that you wanted to try, or did you just not see it yet?
Good question. Well, I think it was a combination of a lot of things. So I've been part of because a lot of our clients also have been successful startups and scale ups in Stockholm. Like, I've been part of that ecosystem for a long time. So even though hadn't had the typical kind of startup since my last phone failed, like, I've been in that ecosphere. And I think like a lot of these people are very, innovative, they're cool, they get great opportunities, like, and I was kind of part of that. So I think like I was really into the idea that was what I wanted to do, more than like neither of the actual ideas I work with were mine. I was just like part of it. So I think that was part of the me not understanding everything fully. And I don't think you need to understand everything fully, but I think that in combination with also me being very young and like, yeah, oh my god, experience are so good to have, because when you're young and naive, like, you just go and you make so many mistakes. And like, yeah, I'm super grateful that I've done it, but like, when you're in it, you don't even realize how much you don't know. So yeah.
100%. And there is no one that I've talked to who have created stuff who have not failed.
Yeah.
It is part of the process and the journey. And it's cool that you mention it so clearly, because a lot of people needs to also hear it and be reminded over and over again. This, people feel like, I suck, I haven't
Yeah.
succeeded, but you need to fail forward. That's the name of the game.
Yeah, and I think there is also something interesting, because like now when I'm a bit older and I've done a lot of fails, I've also done something that is more successful. I think like, because you know so many things that can fail, you're also getting scared shitless. So, or is that the word? Whatever. Like,
Mm.
you're getting so scared. So like, now I'm starting up some stuff on the side of my company, and like, this is the most scary thing I've ever done, because now I know all the things that can go wrong. Not all the things. There are probably more things that can go wrong, but like, I know so many things that can go wrong, so I'm so much more careful.
But this purpose that you talk about, the purpose that you feel, where does that come from? The need
Uh,
and the purpose and the journey that you are on now, where does that origin from?
well, parts of the later part of this story, but it all started off. I think it was maybe, I'm guessing now, 5 or 6 years ago. I was standing in my living room, and like, at this time, I had a boyfriend since a very long time. We had a awesome apartment in a very nice neighborhood. We had like the greatest view. My company had started to take off. I had just finished the Swedish Classic, so I was kind of in a probably the best shape of my life. So like, if you look at like the list that I had when I was younger of what I wanted in life, like the guide, the home, the job, the body, if that was part of it, like, I had it all, and I was like, but I'm not happy.
Mm.
Um, and then I realized, well, or I don't know then if I realized it then, but like, looking back at it, everything I had was all external stuff. And it was everything that I had pictured, like, okay, this is what you need in life to be happy. Like, this is what everybody is like longing for or looking for. And I was like, well, if this is it, like, I mean, of course, we could have had children, and that might have solved it, but I don't think it would. And then I was like, well, if this is not it, then what is it? And this started off a journey into what is the meaning of life, what do I want from life, like if I could create this, I can also create something else. So like, what is it I want to create? And then for
Mm.
the next few years, a lot of things happened. Like my boyfriend and I broke up. I left the apartment, and then other stuff started happening in life. For example, my mom got sick, and that even tipped things to, like, I was already on the path, but when my mom got sick, because she was super healthy, she was very young, it came from nowhere. That kind of also, like, it speeded up the curve. Like, I think I would have been on the same like trajectory, but it speeded up the curve, because I realized, what if I only have 30 more years to live? Like, if that's the case, how do I make the most of them? And I still don't know what makes me happy.
This is so interesting because, as you said, you had gotten all that you were seeking for, all that you saw in the material realm,
Yeah.
but then it was like, meh,
Yeah.
meh. And what purpose, what path were you on? Because you said with your mom that it accelerated, it grew
Yeah. Yeah.
exponentially. And what was the road that you were on that even speeded up?
I had never been on any spiritual path. Like, if you would ask me to, when you do this, like when you do coaching, you create like your life cake, and you do cake pieces with, like, okay, these are my hobbies, and these are my like financial goals, and these are my family, and whatever. And you have one spiritually, and I mean, mine was always empty, because I didn't know what to put there. Like, it was nothing, and I was like, I want to see what is in that pile. So very, very open. um then I had also, and this has been a long time coming, but like, I wanted more spontaneity in my life, because my life was very structured. But that was also something I wanted to be more. And then it was actually also sexuality. So I wanted to be. I felt, we were so young when we got together, and there was so much I hadn't experienced. So I wanted that too. Now I'm being super
Yeah,
open.
but that's awesome. That's what we need to be, open, because I mean, that story is so common and
Yeah.
also understandable, that if you meet when you're very young, I think most can understand that
Yeah.
100%. And did you have any form of religious beliefs from where you come from, family wise, or no spirituality from the upbringing?
Well, so what I realized, I didn't think I had any religious beliefs. That, like, that was my truth. But then now, when I've been much more into it, I do realize that every time when I went to bed, we actually, I had a prayer I said every night. It was always the same prayer. So I
Mm.
guess that was a bit religious, but like, for me, it was never connected to like church or whatever. And then we no, I can't even say, we went to church like once a year. So like, no.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds very Swedish in
Yeah.
some ways. Like, I'm Christian, but I go to church on Christmas.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's it.
And
But
also, my mom had also decorated my room with a lot of angels. So I don't know. Since she's sick now, I've never been able to ask her. But those two things, like the angels and the prayer, I was like, maybe there was something there. So
definitely
yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And did this spiritual path, it happened a lot of that when your mom got sick?
Yeah, and I think, like, for me, everything started to be connected. Like, I have a hard time drawing the line to what is like what is what nowadays, because it's so interconnected. But so another background is, I've always said, like, or with always, for the last 10 years, I've said that I wanted to build a friskhus, so a health house. So to just give this a perspective for people speaking English, in Sweden, the word for hospital is translated sick house. And I'm like, that's weird. It should be called health house. So,
Yes.
and the process with the healthcare in Sweden is very reactive. You get sick, you get a pill to solve whatever problem you have, and then you yeah, hopefully you're better, and then you come back when you have another sickness, and so forth. So I had kind of like, my dream was always when I was older to start building these, and this was I mean, it came from like my dad being sick, my grandfather's being sick, like a lot of seeing that process happening, and a lot of like I could see that was a lot related to like food and taking care of their body and stuff. So I had always had this as a kind of like thing in my mind that I wanted to do, but I realized that my route there would be quicker by being on the path I was on and like building the network, learning how to run companies and so forth, and then doing it, instead of like,
Mm.
quitting everything I was doing, starting to study to a doctor or whatever, and then doing it. Um, so this was kind of like existing in the future. But then when my mom got sick, everything kind of shifted a bit, because she had always been healthy. Like, I don't know a person who ate as healthy as she did. She did everything from scratch. She tried all sorts of eating schedules with that is modern and stuff. And she ran a few times a week. She was always walking. She had started lifting weights. Like, for me, for being a like 60-year-old woman, she was doing really, really, really good compared to like everyone else I know, even myself. So
And
when
what type
she,
of sickness what did she get sick of?
so she had I think it's called a thrombosis. It's where the blood flow out from the brain is hindered due to blood clotting in the out when blood is supposed to go out from the brain, and this built up
Mm.
pressure, so it led to a bleed in her brain. And this happened like, she was healthy one day, or she had a headache the weekend before, and then this happened, and then she had a ton of surgeries, and yeah, she's still not recovered. She still lives, and she's still recovering. She's still making progress, but I mean, it's a very, very long route.
And I don't know how much you want to go into that, but how you have explained it to me, the whole journey with your mom, that's some crazy shit that just puts even more fuel to the fire of your purpose and what you want to create. It's shown to you that, this system as it is does not work.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
crazy. So, but I
I
don't
don't
know how
think we
much you
have
want to
time
go
for the
into that.
whole story, but I can share a few things. So, I mean, the intensive care that she was at, that was actually fantastic. But after she left intensive care, there isn't any system built up in Sweden to really take care of this. So, as a relative, you really need to be very driven in this. So, at one point, I like had to call all the doctor, or like all the institutions in another city, just to get them to agree to meet her. And uh, after that being done, getting to hear that, from now on, the most of your mom's condition, so you need to trust your instincts, because you can't really believe that anyone from the healthcare will know more than you. So like realizing that, yeah, I have a mom that is really, really, really sick, and me, who has no medical expertise whatsoever, has the most knowledge. That is a very scary like situation.
Yeah,
So yes, as you're saying, this put a lot of fuel to the fire, and kind of these two things in combination. So first, kind of realizing that you can be super healthy and you can still get very sick, and then also understanding that the system we have is not created to make you healthy; it's created to manage your disease.
yeah.
Um, these two have definitely brought up a lot of stuff. And then if we look into like my spiritual path, and like a lot of like I've tried a lot of healing methods myself. I mean, I got very very affected by this happening to my mom. She was like my closest person. She was working in my company. Like it affected me a lot. And starting to studying how we heal and realizing how much sickness comes from whatever we experience that we aren't processing has opened up a whole new world. And I'm not an expert in this yet. I don't know if I ever will be, but if you want to listen more to this, you should listen to Gabor Mate, who is actually, he has done studies and like concluded studies of, for example, where they have found that women who get breast cancer, they tend to have the same behavior. So nurses working in wards that have visits of women who might have breast cancer, they can tell who has it or doesn't have it by meeting them. They don't have to see any of the scans or not. They can see it based on their behavior. So starting to understand that health is a lot more than like exercise and food, which was my belief before, has really like clarified as I've gone to this more like on this more spiritual journey, and kind of daring to go out from what science has told us, because there is so much that science cannot tell us yet. It might be able to tell us in the future, but until then it feels like we have a choice of either believing in some of the magic and actually seeing that it can work, or not believing and kind of missing out on all the other potential there is.
From your mom, what happened then? Because how long ago did that happen with your mom?
So it was about 2.5 years ago now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's soon gonna become 3 years. Yeah, I mean the first 6 months, not much happened. I was just like trying to survive. I divided my time between being at the hospital with her, taking care of my father and my brother. Well, you know, not really. They were taking care of me too, but like just being with family. And then I had the company, and then also taking care of myself. So I had this insane, like the first few months I was only in the hospital pretty much, but after that I had this insane schedule where I was working in the office for 1 week, and then I went to my hometown where my mom was at for a week, and then I went to Spain for a week just to have some time for myself, and then I went up to my hometown again for a week, and then I went back to work for a week. So I had like a schedule. So I was like,
Uh,
I had a different purpose every week. I was working all the time, but like physical placement. And after 5 months or something of doing that, I was like, I was so finished. Like I've been close to burnout a few times in my life. That was probably one of the closest. And then I
was
kind
it
of
the
realized,
emotional drainage, or what type of, how did you
yeah.
experience that?
Well, it was it was a lot. I think like the thing I have to learn over and over and over about myself is that I have a very hard time receiving. So and I also another thing, and this came to me quite recently. I have a very hard time. Um, it's hard to explain, but like when this happened to my mom, of course, both my dad and my brother were devastated, and if two people are devastated and we're a group of three, like I feel that I need to weigh that up. I'm a Libra, that could be the reason. So I didn't really get to feel sad, and it was not like they were doing anything, but like according to myself, I needed to be the one balancing it up.
So
So
you oppressed a lot of the stuff that you actually was in great need of processing and feeling and having space for yourself, but you took the leader role, let's say, and you
yeah,
oppressed.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely like the project leader, making sure that everything was fixed. My brother was good at this too, but like he just became a dad at the same time, like a month later. So he was in a crazy situation too. My dad is sick himself. So yeah, so I became very much the project manager. And then like the thing is, I'm 36. When it happened, I was what, 34, 33, 34, and none of, like, it's very few of my friends who have actually had something similar happen to their parents. Like, our parents are still fairly young, so they haven't gotten that sick yet. So even with my friends, I felt, and this is also part of me of having a hard time receiving, like, um I find it difficult to be the one in need, and that in combination with that many people hadn't experienced this or anything in particular, and it's also a bit different from having someone dying or even having someone being sick, because my mom wasn't communicative for a year, meaning I couldn't ask her how she was feeling. So if someone dies, it's a clean cut. Like, it sucks
Yeah.
more than everything, but it's like, it's done. And if someone is sick, you can talk to them. I had
Mm.
a living person that I couldn't talk to.
It becomes like a limbo, and you're
Yeah,
stuck in a vacuum
yeah,
almost.
exactly.
Mm.
Yeah. So, and being in this, I think my friends, like, they saw that I needed something, but I wasn't able to express what I needed, and they had no own experience of it. So it was like the summer after it had happened, I finally, like, took a break, and after that, like I think from there I started to be, like, very filled with fear and very depressed, but I didn't realize it. So for the next, like, year or something, yeah, it must have been a year, maybe a year and a half, I was, like, in
Mm.
denial. And I did stuff, like, I understood. This is the weird thing, like, I understood that I needed help, but nothing was really working because I was so emotionally closed off. So
Yeah.
or I wouldn't say that it wasn't working. Like, it was working, it was keeping me afloat, but it wasn't pulling me out enough. But I think it was also because I had so high pressure still, because, like, I had a company, everything, the situation was still going on. So I really didn't get really any space to breathe, because there wasn't any space to take.
Yeah.
And
So
I
you just continue creating this invisible backpack that
Yeah,
just gets heavier and heavier and heavier,
yeah, and I
and you
removed
just
some stuff
running
from it.
faster and
Yeah, yeah.
faster.
And I can take off it for a few days and take it on again, but it's like, it's always there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very good liknelse. What is that in English?
Analogy.
Analogy. Yeah.
And what have those 6 months led you to where you sit right now? What have all of that accumulated into? Would you
Uh,
say where you sit right now?
well, first of all, I'm very well rested, which is amazing. But I think what it's starting to conclude to is that, well, everything happens for a reason. Like, and I can't begin to imagine how much it sucks with everything that has happened to my mom. But the weirdest thing, and this we kind of knew from a long time ago, is she kind of knew that it was gonna happen. Like, uh, so her saying, like, the thing she always said to us when we were, well, before it happened, was, the brain is amazing. So I still think that she can heal, because, if she has said the brain is amazing for 30 years, then the brain is amazing. And she was also terrified of something like this happening, meaning, of course it's going to happen, because the universe cannot process the negative from the affirmative, meaning that if you're afraid of something happening, it will happen because you put so much energy into it. Which is like, it's
And
crazy.
often also I think it hits you so that you will learn from it, that you attract that fear so you can release that
Yeah,
fear
yeah,
also.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And for me, like, being part of this was, or having this happen to our family was, realizing the family dynamics. And I think also, like, since I've been calling in this health house, like, this is what I want to do, I needed to learn that the health house is not what I originally thought it would be. Like, it's continuing out of other stuff, and I still don't know what it exactly is gonna be, but it's very, very different from my original idea. But kind of the purpose and the idea of being proactive and like working for health instead of, again, sickness, is still there. And yeah, so everything has a reason, kind of like all the bad shit that you cannot comprehend because it's so dark, it's so hard, it's so tough, like everything has a reason. And then another one which is fairly new to me from this point of view. So you know that people always say that, like or always say, people in recent years say that there are no good feelings or bad feelings, there are just feelings. Well,
Yeah.
I think this for events too. So there are no good events or bad events. It's just life happening, and it's all supposed to like give you some sort of progress. So I've been part on this journey where I've kind of tried to get more in contact with my bad feelings, to kind of release them, to also get my higher feelings, because if you can't feel your low feelings, you can't feel your high feelings either. But what I'm coming to realize in all of this is, as long as I'm considering them high or low, I'm still putting a value on them. So the
Yeah,
thing,
the perception of it. Yeah.
yeah. So now kind of learning how to, if something happens, like if the other week when I came to Bangkok, it turns out that I hadn't booked a ticket for my next leg. So I was going to Khon Kaen, and I had no ticket. And instead of being like, oh, pissing on myself and being like, oh, why didn't you book this ticket, or why didn't you look this up before? Like, I really came to the airport and realized I had no ticket. So I could have looked before I flew from my previous occasion, but instead of doing that, I was like, okay, so this is something to learn. And I think what I needed to learn that time was like to laugh at my mistakes, and to be like, oh, it's not that difficult to make mistakes, like life goes on. And so to see that even all the hard times, like we had um, like a very dear friend of mine who has been working in the company, she resigned a month ago, and like that would have previously hit me so hard. Like, if whenever someone left and so forth, I had a bit of PTSD from like bad events in the company, and I'm like, okay, so she's gonna leave, it is what it is, it's for a reason. And like taking everything with that sort of calmness. And also the latest addition to this is trying also to be like not even as attached to the happy situation. So not being, when something good happens, not being super excited about this and like clinging to that feeling of being super excited, being like, oh, that was nice, and being kind of soft with that too. Yeah, so first round is everything happens for a reason. Second, don't get too attached with like, is it good or bad or whatever. And the final thing I would say is learning to live more with the flow. And this is this is on so many levels. Like, people used to look at my calendar and think I was crazy, like, because I had so many meetings, I had so many back-to-backs. People were like, how are you functioning? And that was like my superpower, that I could like go into a meeting, be super focused in that meeting, leave right into next focus, because I worked a lot previously with like presence. But then now, not only like removing everything in our calendar, like we decided that we were going to do this like a few hours ago, like that would never have happened in my previous calendar. And being like, okay, yeah. And like and even me being kind of like frustrated when I'm reaching out to a person, I'm like, when can we talk? And they say like next week or something. I'm like, that's very far ahead. Like, can't we just do it now? Like
Yeah,
so
that is so significant on many parts, that especially in the north we have to relearn this more of a flow, return it to be more human.
Yeah.
allow emotions to be emotions, and everything does not have to be calculated into the smallest bit. It's
Yeah.
call a friend when you. So I hear you 100%. It's very cool that you go from the total extreme to the other one, and
Yeah.
then the midpoint, the balance of it, and then it's
Yeah.
so purposeful and it makes so much sense with this healthcare because you understand both sides of it.
Yeah. 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 Exactly.
So it just, of course, and
Yeah.
we really need it. We really need it.
Yeah, and I think so much more like if you can allow yourself to have that like space in your life, and I don't know exactly how this will happen when I return. As you say, I will probably meet somewhere in the middle, but like when everything is on schedule, you never do something really with feeling because your body don't have time to like switch to like what is the feeling of this. But if we can be like, okay, I want to, I want to use my new microphone that came today, and we can like act on that, it becomes so much more engaging, and life becomes more of a dance.
Do you have it easier today to ask for help?
No, I think that one I'm still struggling with. This is actually interesting. We had another exercise today in class where so we have these lessons with Nikki and Michael called Making Magic, and today's theme was touch. So we, in groups of 3, we just like placed our hands on, so 2 people were placing their hands on the third person, like in their around their head and stuff, and around their feet, and just like applying touch, just loving touch. And
Mm.
during this journey, I've kind of become very energy aware as well. So I felt so much of the energy of those 2 people that I started sending back what they needed instead of
Mm.
accepting their touch from me. So I was like, okay, I still have a way to go with this one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is also beautiful to see. And I mean, you are a natural, call it whatever you want, but I usually call it medicine woman. I like that word. But you can say healer or whatever, but medicine woman. And
Yeah.
the thing you really have to learn having that within you is how do I give this to myself?
Yeah. But
Because
I
you are
think,
so good at giving it to
yeah.
others.
But I think as part of this trip, I have become a lot better at caring for myself. Like I can give to myself. So, for
Yeah.
example, I can take another example from today. After the yoga class this morning, I had so much energy. Like it was like running like crazy in my body. And normal Annelie would have like go and met all the other people, used all their energy on them. New Annelie went to her room and used all her energy on herself. So yeah.
Boom.
So for me, I can do it, but I still like if you would help me with something that I would have a hard time with. So
Mm. And this makes sense of what you're saying, that you live this stressful life where and everything is thought out, every minute of the schedule is ta 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 ta. Then of course it is way more difficult to tune in, to
yeah,
actually feel what do I need, because
yeah,
it's always like this. And I mean, Stockholm is the pinnacle of
yeah,
that type of culture.
yeah.
So I think it is very cool that you have been in that. Now you take the other part, and what will the mixture of those 2 worlds create? That is very, very interesting.
Yeah, only time will tell.
Do you feel that, is there anything more that you would want to put into this that you speak of, so that you feel that, yeah, this was said before we jump into.
No, the only thing I kind of want to say is, I mean, I'm in a much better place now than I was 7 months ago, and I do understand that most people won't be able to take 7 months of their life and just like travel and invest in themselves. So what I do want to do with this podcast is to like take my continuous exploration into a bit more of the public and like share of that. And then eventually, as this kind of becomes more concrete, on the side of what I'm currently doing for work, I want to build something to help people who do share the same feelings that I've done, and as well as like people in the situations similar to my family members who have been sick and maybe not really had the knowledge or the resources to really do something about it. So for basically for anyone who wants to do anything about their mental health or physical health or disease, I want to help to contribute to that journey by connecting people, sharing all the amazing healings of at least the professionals I've met, but also a lot of others, and that is the start of this is this podcast. So yeah.
And that's it. I mean, expression is the way where you put out the energies and the knowing that this is where I'm moving, because there are way more people that are synchronized on that path, and the more people that express and talk of it and it shows in the outer realm, the chances of the interconnection and the collaboration working together making this actually happen grows so much. Because exactly what, for just an example, a few years ago, this healthcare you speak of, we were a group of guys, but we called it hubs, where high technology and health from the natural nature and the high tech meet for health.
Exactly.
So it's beautiful. So I mean, everything is as it should be, and by this podcast you're doing it, so that is beautiful.
Yeah, I think
It's
it
power.
will be a lot of fun. All right, so for our listeners, Ludvig has been part of another podcast that is unfortunately in Swedish, but where he talks a lot about his history. And I want him to start by repeating kind of the overall of this for those who cannot hear uh, the Swedish version. But then we're gonna focus a bit more on the later parts of your life, the last few years, right?
All right, I'm gonna do a short but as clear description as I can. So my father died when I was 5, in those critical years when from 0 to 7 years old, when your subconscious mind is created. I saw a dead human and I lost my father, the father figure of my life. Later on, my mother meets my so-called stepdad, who was a guy, when we speak of emotional intelligence, none of it. And he had a son. So we were a lot of guys in this family growing up. And my mom was one of the first females in the Swedish military group. So she is also a very action driven, very, how would you say, also she has emotional intelligence, but also very good at just shutting off
Mm,
bad, let's say, bad emotions or unwanted emotions.
yeah.
And so I grew up in this family dynamics, and I had a lot of emotions in me that were not allowed really to be expressed in the culture of the family. So vulnerability was not part of it. So it was all this action driven, to, you know, be good at sports, to always compete, always be the best, that type of mentality. So very early on, my bag was already full when I was very young. This backpack we talked about, the invisible backpack,
Mm,
was very heavy early on because I
yeah.
had all these unprocessed emotions. So when I'm 14, I get into, smoking weed, drinking alcohol, and I have found the cure of my life. That was it. But that very quickly turned into addiction. So I smoked a lot, I drank a lot, I started taking other heavier type of drugs, amphetamines, cocaine, acid. I was on the bender with the idea of that I was gonna live fast and die young. So I got into, the criminal sphere of selling drugs and fucking up pretty much a lot. And I went to Australia as a 19-year-old trying to fix my life. But when I got to Australia, everything turned 100 times worse because your so-called butt follows you wherever you go. So if you have not faced your demons or the suppressed emotions within you, you carry it with you. That's how it is. So in Australia, man, I was illegal immigrant. I was involved with Yugoslavian mafia. I worked on a Hollywood movie. At the same time, I was hunted by the cops for criminal charges and court dates. And finally, my bag was so heavy that I lost it. I completely lost it. As a 21-year-old guy, I I had pushed the barrel too far, and the stress levels of this type of life had hit the roof. So I had so called psychosis. I just lost my mind completely. And instead of ending up in jail in Australia, I ended up locked up in the psych ward in Sweden. So, for a total of 7 months of my life, I have experienced the psych ward and all what that means. Also, straight jackets. I've experienced a lot of straight jackets because what happens here that the hospitals do not acknowledge and do not yet understand is that when psychosis happens and this stuff, it is so much suppressed emotions that like a volcano comes all in one time, and you can be seen as have lost your fucking mind, you crazy. But it is just so much that you have never allowed yourself to process and feel, that just comes at the same time. So what happened was that I was diagnosed heavily with heavy ADHD, bipolar type 1, thoughts of schizophrenia. Like I could have had any diagnose on the map. And I was put on 10 pills 5 times a day. And they declared me as brain damaged. Like my brain was kaput. I would never come back to. I was done. I was a carrot. So I walked around, and this is the short condensed version that I speak about in this podcast, and now getting into the other part of it, which is the most important of it really, is because before I want to speak of this, there's a few names that I'm gonna mention and then bind a red line from these names. And the first name I'm gonna mention is my mother. Because what happened when you have been locked up and you put on all these pills and you are, from the doctors, from the authorities' point of view, you are fucked for life. Almost everyone trusts the doctor. But my mother, with the, lioness instinct, felt that something is not right. Something is not right about this. How can it be possible that he has to eat 10 medicines 5 times a day being a carrot? Like, she had to take care of me. I could not do anything. I was just drooling. I was somewhere else. From a lot of drugs till a lot of drugs.
Yep.
But from illegal drugs to legal drugs.
Yeah.
So what happens is that my mom, by her own accord, starts to take off medicine. So I start getting off medicine after medicine, having all of this crazy side effects, almost like you quit heroin. You lie and you have shakes, and I could have that for a week just because these medicines are heavy stuff, really heavy chemical compounds that when they interact with each other, it creates a crazy cocktail. But I went through and came to the point where I was on 3 medications, and then because I could not sleep and I was heavily depressed, feeling everything was gray. So there was 3 medications of this 10 that I continued on, and I went into 12-step programs where you meet other addicts and you speak, you learn to put words on the emotions that you feel, and that is a very important part. So that is my mom. Then we have Pairo Gusinak, which is also a guy from the hypnotherapy realm. And after I've been during this 12 step for quite some time, around 2 years, I ended up going an adventure guide education that, in collaboration with the military, was created to have a group of selected individuals of 12 to go through this so-called FIRO, which is group dynamics that the military use of to create the best group of people.
Mm.
So I went to this education, or was selected to it, and way into it we have a keynote speaker. It's a special force military guy, Jonathan, who comes in to speak about hormones and keynote speaking rhetorics, and he is collaborating with this education. And when he comes with Bairo. So Bairo and Jonathan have this keynote speak in this room, and I'm sitting and I'm getting so curious about these guys. I'm like, wow, what is this? What is this? And it just made me wanted to know more. Because they spoke about hormones, dopamine, oxytocin, how you create this by rhetorics, and how you get your voice heard. So what happens is that I contact Jonathan and Bairo and be like, I want to be part of whatever you guys are doing. I don't know what you're doing, but I want to be part. Just let me be part of it. And I actually made up that I could make a web page for Jonathan. I had never made a web page, internet, website in my life, but I just made it up to have some form of leverage for Jonathan. And he's like, yeah, man, make me a website. We started to get to know each other, and then we connected and they took me in. So as an assistant, I started to become educated by these guys in rhetorics, how you speak and how you hold keynote speeches, which then led me to Jonathan's boss, David J.P. Phillips. And I was allowed to move in with David Phillips and spent 6 months with these people, just learning storytelling, rhetorics, art of sale. So I learned a lot that I'm so grateful for, and that also helped me in my healing journey to become better at putting words to the complexity of the emotions that I had experienced in my life. So that was also why I mentioned Bairo, because Bairo just decided, this is 5-6 years ago, that I will not let this guy go. So he have been a trust point for me, and we have went through a lot. So I have so much to be grateful. It is Bairo who said to me, and I got so mad. Oh my God, I got so mad. He said to me, Ludvig, you do not need these medications that you are on because you are not sick. And I was so mad because the story that I had been imprinted by the doctors of society and everything was that I had heavily ADHD, I was bipolar, and I needed to take these medications. And I lived that narrative and I blamed everything on it. So having someone saying to you, you are not sick and you do not need this medication, that hit my ego a lot. And I was like, fuck you, man, you don't know how this feels. Because I was so sold on it. But that actually started, and this is another thing, but it came another guy also telling me that you know that you are not sick. So I started getting these signs. So 3 years ago, I decided to quit the medicines that were supposed to stabilize me and make me sleep.
Yeah.
And then the next chapter is Larky Boysen. Larky Boysen, that I'm also have my life to her, because when I stopped with these medications, it was so tough with, because with this suppression, when you suppress so much emotions for such a long time of your life, because what medicines does, like antidepressants and this, they do not allow you to feel the emotions that you are natural to feel. And I was also taught with the trauma of my background that these vulnerability feelings like crying and stuff was something that is bad. It is not okay. I have to hold it in, hold it in. But what happened with Larky, which was my girlfriend at the time, she had learned somatics and the importance of body intelligence. And she was a master of vulnerability, to express your vulnerability. And I was so afraid of it because I started to feel that I have so much shit here that no one will be able to hold this can of shit that is going on. But she showed me and made me trust not to be afraid to express. So I started learning how to cry. I didn't cry for, many, 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 many years. I did not cry because on this medication you are shut off 100%. And I used exercise a lot to not feel. Always running, always biking, always pushing myself to the limits not to feel. So she is the one who taught me to get into my body with yoga, neuromuscular intelligence, understand the diaphragm, understand tension in the body, all of this stuff. And she also got me into EMDR, because what happened during this journey after some time off the medication is that I started having massive panic attacks, like passing out and stuff, and I did not understand what it was. But she understood that this is panic attacks, and for me, I had no understanding of what it was. So she got me into EMDR in Denmark, where it is like hypnosis. You work with the when something happens to you, whatever happens, the experience go from the right side of the brain through the amygdala to the left side of the brain, then back amygdala to the right side of the brain. And that's how you stabilize the experience that you've been through. But in a trauma, what happens is that it gets stuck in the left side of the brain. And this is what hypnosis, EMDR helps with, is that instead of ruminating what we often do in psychology, you just ruminate the problem just in fucking eternity, and then you are supposed to just be in this loop, when in reality we are supposed to process and release the trauma from the body, from all of what you are. So that EMDR helped me with. So after a few, I think it was around 6, 7, 8 sessions, I was free of the panic attacks. I started learning how to sleep, because even though I had quit the medicine years ago, I struggled with the sleep because the panic attacks made that I slept for 2 hours, then I woke up, and
Mm.
then slept for 2 hours, and like my body was always in fight or flight mode.
Mm.
So by this working with the body, the somatics, I went tantra, I had releases bodily. I learned ways to release tension in the body on a natural basis, and then also processing with this EMDR. And one thing that you mentioned that I've all the way have done a lot, poetry, writing,
Mm.
because I believe 100% that from suppression to expression, that the oppression that we go through in life turns into suppression, like a suppressed volcano that needs to express.
Yeah.
So by poetry, rhetorics, theater, EMDR, hypnosis, to express yourself. I mean, now today, 3 years later, I am on no medication, and I have my whole life to thank these individuals that came my way, because if it would not have been for them, I would have been dead. Most of the guys that I was locked up in at the hospital, they're not alive anymore. And a lot of people that I grew up with, they, you know, overdoses, they are in jail. And what is very common with this is that you at a very early age get diagnosed, and there are way too few individuals that are reacting on it. It's so acceptable because have been so indoctrinated. So my purpose, and one thing that I'm like this, I think, is why I'm here. One of the reasons is this from suppression to expression. Both that I've lived through it in a way that you cannot tell me these argumentations that, oh, but you don't know how it is, oh, you have never had a diagnosis, or la 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 la. It's like, I have done it all, brother and sister, all of it, and I can say today that I have no diagnosis and I am on no medication. And by this knowledge that have been forgotten, a lot of medicine women, a lot of the somatic work, a lot of the yoga, for example, the fascia. If you're depressed, your thoracic spine is stiff, and look at your hips. So understanding the body, because the head and the body is not separate,
No.
everything is one. So our thoughts, what is the quality of our thoughts? What is the quality of our expression? What is the quality of our understanding of our body? Because when I was cut off, before I met Larky, who taught me to enter my emotional and my pain body, I was I had no understanding of tensions. And now when I have a tension, because tension also creates a story often, that you
Mm.
can be tense, and then you start having this story that you start thinking of, and then it just goes on like this. But when you have started to understand, like I know that you are on that journey as well with the yoga and everything, you start realize that, oh, it's a old memory, like body memory, that maybe I just need to sit with,
Yeah.
acknowledge, touch, and then have the release. Maybe you need to cry, maybe you need to scream or laugh, whatever it might be. But this, and the brain is neuroplastic. I thought of it when you mentioned your mom.
Yeah.
That fuck these doctors, man. Like they said that I was brain damaged for life. What I'm doing now in their realm of reality, impossible.
Yeah.
And now here I am. So the brain is neuroplastic, and we don't know how big amount of, how do you say, to recuperate or heal is actually possible. But there's a lot of stuff when it come, like now I have just been jamming on, so I quit there for a second to see if you have any
I have
questions.
so many
Annelie,
questions.
shoot.
Where do I
No,
start?
now
Well,
I have ranted long enough.
well, one of the things you bring up is that kind of I see your story as like, you know, you're opening few layers, and I have similar from mine. But like, first you say that the 12-step program, like that helped you begin to kind of communicate and so forth, and then meeting Jonathan and David, that you know, helped you kind of get the vocabulary and the tools for expressing yourself. And then meeting your ex girlfriend, you kind of connected this with your body. Looking back at it, like for someone who is maybe like you know, going through something different, do you think it's necessary to take those different like steps, or could it be in another way around, or what is your thoughts on that?
I think that the whole journey can be so much quicker, and why it have taken such a long time for me is because this help is not what you get from the so-called system. This is ways that have come into me outside of
Yeah,
the realm. It's coming in more and more of that knowledge. But I mean, if let's say Annelie, you would have had this healthcare home who works with the so-called alternative medicine, which
yeah.
is in many cases the actual medicine, and then the medicine we call medicine is fucking pure poison. So this that
We
you
have to
talk
change the
of,
drugs
if
and medication like definitions.
100%, 100%, and because like Gabor Mate also says that, I mean, what is ADHD?
Yeah,
Trauma. And now kids grow up, you have to sit in a classroom 8 hours a day, you don't move that much, you eat shitloads of sugar, and you have a screen in your face all day long. Of
yeah,
course you get fucking nuts. You're like, "Argh." So there's many perspectives to it. But from your question, I would say that the journey that I've made, which took many years, does not have to take that long. If you get the right conscious help, it, like I would say that my journey could have been 1 year instead of now I am 8 years in
yeah,
of the process.
yeah,
Because yeah, that's how I look at it. And this is why a few years ago we were a group of guys that wanted to create this health hubs, but they were yet too early, I would say. So maybe the next try will be more successful, and with geniuses and people like yourself that are on the same path of understanding, and then it's
yeah.
meant to be. We were too early on that ball, I believe. And I learned a lot by that too, meeting all these investors, and we were you know this Stockholm bureaucracy, and when you work with investors and how that whole game works, I learned a lot by that. So I'm happy for it too. But it was when something is too altruistic,
Yeah.
yet it's quite difficult to get the monetary means necessary for it.
So, I mean, with all this knowledge that you're sharing and kind of helping people realize where some of this comes from, what what are you wishing that people should do?
Accumulate their own understanding, not listening to what I say, what anyone else say, but seek, question, break narratives, question, because that's it, and it will continue. I'm still questioning. I'm so far from understanding. Like, the more I understand, the less I actually understand, and that
Yeah.
I truly believe in. So this hunger of don't stop, keep questioning, and have a very open mind as you possibly can, from That is one point. And the other point is that be brave enough in your own thought and emotion to understand that this world is not just pink clouds and people who want the best for you. It is also a lot of greed, a lot of corruption, a lot of bad shit that in your wildest dreams you may not. So just be open for that. And that doesn't mean that everything is shit, but we have to be brave enough to see things for what they are so that the change is possible. Because if we cannot see what the problem is, how can we then see what the solution is? But as I cannot tell really anyone anything, what I can do is to inspire, but then it is up to you to then, whatever I say, like, read and be hungry of wanting to understand, because for every step more comes.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting journey that we are on. So I had to develop that, the abstract and the concrete way of communicating, a lot of storytelling, to metaphorically for myself and for others even be able to express what I went through.
So
And
can you try to
so
do that for us now?
to explain,
Yeah.
wow, but I just want to finish it
Okay.
with that the short, straight, and simple answer, that is, here you have a diagnose, here is a pill.
Mm,
That is the short, straight, and simple communication and answer, which does not work.
no.
That's the point of it. And when it comes to psychosis, how I see of it from what I've learned through these years is that what that is more of a PTSD massive attack.
Mm,
Like you have so much stress, you have so much tension on your nervous system, the vagus nerve, the your nervous system have been so much on charge. You
yeah.
have, like, for my sake, like I had put so much chemical compounds in my system, alcohol, opioids.
Yeah.
I was full with those stuff. I was, I had so much pressure that it's like being hunted by a lion for almost 2 years constantly.
Yeah.
We are human. We need rest. We
Yeah.
need to recuperate. We need sleep.
Yeah.
So how I look at that was that it was a total a mental breakdown where, like, reality for me disappeared and I could only speak in colors and numbers. I lost the ability to speak, and
Mm,
because all the energy and the juice that this body needs to function was so drained that it just needed time. Like you now, you have just needed time to recuperate, to rest,
yeah.
to give the body, your soul, your spirit, the time to recuperate and heal. This is why I have a strong belief that most things we can heal, but we are in many ways slowly poisoned into.
Yeah, but it's interesting to kind of hear your explanation anyway. And I'm kind of like, so knowing what you know about me and like my like more believing that there are natural solutions to most of it. If that would have happened today with all that you know today, what do you think would have been the best solution to help you get out of that without like,
To have, yeah, to have really grounded individuals who have an understanding. Back in the day with the old tribes, for example, when someone had a psychosis, a mental breakdown, what they did was that they connected this guy with someone who had that experience before, and they
mm,
just went out in the woods for about 3 months, where all these emotions and all this that needed to be expressed was expressed. You went to
Mm.
the crazy town, you just
Yeah.
screamed, laughed, just did crazy shit. But you had someone who, like in a psychedelic trip, you have someone who holds you,
Holding you,
who's
holding
there, who
space.
can give support. Because what happens in a psychosis is almost like you return to the womb. You
Mm.
become super vulnerable.
Mm.
It's like almost like a rebirth type thing, and then you are like a snake who have just shedded the skin, and you are all, you know, very sensitive.
Mm.
So if you have a lot of love
Yeah.
surrounded, like strong male, female individuals, that and that everything that you are that feels is allowed to be expressed,
Yeah.
and a lot of touch, a lot of good food, a lot, so that
Mm.
you get the right minerals and the vitamins, because
Yeah.
it burns a lot in that stress.
Yeah.
So that's a factor. Another factor is nature, to spend a lot of time in the ocean, in the woods, hugging trees, feel the
Mm.
grass,
Yeah.
be in nature, and not have so much input of electronics, and like just peace.
Yeah. 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 So
Yeah.
this is all. It makes so much sense, and I'm also thinking like how these are also things that can help us in everyday life. But say for example, I know that you're working as a chef now. So say for example
Yeah.
that something goes really wrong in the kitchen, and you get really really upset. Like in the kitchen, you're surrounded by people. Like of all what you have learned now, like how do you handle that in society, knowing all you know about how we need to express our feelings?
That you need to express it, but there's a difference of allowing a feeling to be
Mm-hmm.
and acting upon it. Sometimes you have to act because you have to put a boundary,
Yeah.
but there's a difference to lose yourself, or that you use that energy as a sword. For example, that if someone have trespassed my boundary, I have all the rights in the world to be like, use that force, but it does not mean that I have to punch you, or
Mm.
lose myself in it. In the
Yeah.
same thing, when you come to dialectics in rhetorics, when you're in an argumentation, it can often arouse a lot of frustration, a lot of anger,
Yeah.
and what that tension that creates, that's a practice as well. That how long can you practice your attention span? Some people have a very short, and I've been there as well, with a lot of aggression problems and stuff, because of the with the PTSD, your span is so short. So if you get very triggered, very quickly you like rah, just explode.
Yeah.
But then the more you also allow that expression, the less of power it has over you, because as you said, there is no bad or good feelings. It's all the suppression, not the perception
Yeah.
of that emotion.
Yeah.
So, and we have to create rooms where you're allowed to make mistakes. Because it's Xiomara, a Hawaiian medicine woman. She taught me a lot about this with tension in argumentation. She was former, worked in Silicon Valley developing apps and been in that realm. And then she, a lot like you, was like, fuck this shit. And she just went traveling, and now she lives in Portugal, having her own little business, living a beautiful life. So if CO sees this one, shout out to CO, but she's very good in rhetorics. So
Yeah.
what she did is that she consciously put my weak points, so
Mm.
that I would also practice that when I get this feeling, how can I hold that feeling without exploding?
Mm. Yeah.
So it's a difficult feeling, but it is just a feeling.
Yeah.
So your question, it becomes, it's not black or white, it's more of a, it depends on what it is. If it's a put a boundary, or like anger is also healthy to express, and it has to be able to be expressed, but it's a difference of expressing anger and then leave it than just being in a fight for weeks and days and months. And
Yeah.
yeah.
But I think you're into something very interesting here because in Swedish society, at least, I found that anytime we allow it to, I'm not, I think your description with if you're using it for a sword or a wall, kind of like is a good an analogy. Was that the word for liknelse?
Yeah, mask.
Yeah, because like in society today, we in Sweden at least, I found that we are not allowed to feel, and because we think that if someone feels something, they are gonna attack someone, and like both allowing that feeling to come up, even if it's anger, and then like just teaching people to like put that boundary, but also like allow that to happen. Like one of my best friends and I, she has had a lot of like a repressed anger. So I've told her like next time you're angry with me, just go for it. And this happened a month ago or something, and it was very beautiful because since we had talked about it before, like she could be she was so fucking pissed at me, like she was really 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 angry, but like I knew that she needed to get that out, so I could just like say, okay, be angry, take a few days, we will talk about it later, I still love you, I'm not taking that away, like I still love you, that is not the thing, but let's not like have this discussion now. So to kind of like let her get it out, but also not taking it in, like to have that. So I think there is something in this dynamic that we need to practice. And I mean it's much easier in a friendship where you kind of like know each other better, and you can talk about these things, but I think we also need to take it into the workplace. And I like the yeah the not using it as a sword but still getting it out description.
That is why I use sword, is because it's an anagram for words. So
Mm.
I called myself a swordsmith, a
Mm.
wordsmith. So that is more what I mean with the sword. But the this is very interesting because when it comes to relation, as we spoke of, that in a relationship, whether it is with friends, the real ones, if you cannot be vulnerable, and vulnerable means being, in a very, crying, showing that side, but it's also showing the dark side of being pissed. That's also in the realm of vulnerability. If you are not having that component in a relationship, there is no relationship. There's only a contact. So the difference of a relationship and just a contact has so much to do with just that a friction in drama, in storytelling, which is one of the five pillars of every religion, legend, Hollywood movie. One of the five is conflict.
Mm.
And because this is what we are, and we need, because from the dissonance, through the friction, we create resonance.
Mm.
But if we take away the friction, it will always be in a form of a dissonance, a form of misunderstanding, and a form of, I don't want to speak to you.
Yeah, you
And
don't
then
really
the
know
more,
where you have people.
yeah, so it's like, yourself with your parents, or there is a way large bigger chance that you show your dark side.
Yeah.
100%. But that is also the responsibility, the ability to respond to the changes that you want to see. So if you feel that, we have to be brave enough to do it ourselves.
Yeah.
So this is why it's good in a kitchen with the chefs, for example, because chefs are fucking nuts. And I work with Irish dudes, Spanish dudes and ladies, and Bulgarians. and this is something that differs a lot from the Swedish, is that they have, it's not the same with that. Like if you're angry, you show that you're angry, but
Yeah.
then you're angry for a short amount and then poof, it's
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
That this is like an animal when we talk about trauma, for example, that is very, very important to understand, is that when a dog, for example, hits a trauma, what does the dog often do?
Afterwards, he shakes it off.
Yes. And kids, they did this with, they saw that in bomb shelters, when bombs hit and families were in the bomb shelters, the kids were sitting and shaking like this, just shaking.
Mm.
And then when the bombs were over, the kids went out and played. What did the
Mm.
parents do? Because when the bomb hit, they just froze and they did not allow themselves to shake. They
Mm.
hold it in. So they stashed the trauma. So when the trauma had happened, they were still in the trauma.
Yeah.
So I work with this a lot with myself, that I do this shakes in the groins.
Mm.
And that's amazing as well, because we stash a lot of that. So, and every morning I often, just shake like
Yeah.
and tapping.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing, Jules. So we're about an hour now, Ludvig. Is there anything that
cool.
you want to share that you haven't had the opportunity to share?
Belief is such a strong power, magical tool to, also the patience, believe and patience, trust that. That's
Beautiful.
my finish. And beautiful. Now we have done you, we have done me, and here we sit.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been amazing talking to you, Annelie.
Yeah, likewise.
And I can also see where we possibly will collaborate in one form or the other.
Yes, definitely. And I kind of want to continue the conversation, like going into more discussion about a lot of things that we have talked about. But I think for this recording, at least, we have to shut it off before people get too tired of us.
Definitely. Let it. That sounds good.
All right. So
So bye bye, guys.
bye bye, guys.